Hey guys, how are you all doing? This is the MMA breakdown with my recap for UFC Fight Night 41, Munoz versus Musashi. I was pretty down on this card heading into it, and it was better than I thought it was going to be. Didn't blow me away, but there were some really nice surprise performances throughout the card. I thought the first few fights on the prelim card was were pretty slow, but not a bad card overall. Really great main event, and I loved Nicholas Backstrom's performance. Great stuff. But let's get into the recap. I'll try to keep it quick and just give you my thoughts on all of the fights. First fight on the Fight Pass preliminary card, Ruslan Magomedov decisioned Victor Pesta. Magomedov had the better striking here, and Pesta tried to get it to the ground, and he was able to get a few takedowns throughout the fight. I actually scored the fight for Pesta. He definitely won the first round. The second round, he got one takedown, and Magomedov landed a few big strikes right at the end of the round. So I thought that was a toss-up round. But Magomedov was able to get off some more striking. Seems like that's where he prefers to fight. And overall, I thought a decent performance by Magomedov. I don't really expect much from either of these guys. I think Magomedov should fight Peizao next. Marcus Rogerio, who fought on the Brazil card. Both heavyweight newcomers and both skilled strikers, it seems like. So I think that would be a fun fight. But yeah, I don't expect Pesto or Magomedov to do much in the heavyweight division. But some nice striking shown off by Magomedov. Next up at featherweight, Maximo Blanco decisioned Andy Ogle. I think Andy Ogle just threw this fight away in that third round. Blanco came out real strong right at the beginning of the opening round. He threw that flying crane kick, hurt Ogle. Ogle was able to recover, hold on. Ogle came back to win the second round, out-grappled Blanco. That seems to be Ogle's biggest strength is the grappling. He's shown that he can, for a while he could get on top of Charles Oliveira. He was able to get on top of Cold Miller and hold him down in the third round of their fight. But really, he took Blanco's back in that second round, held on basically the whole round. And then the third round, really disappointing. Ogle just seemed to want to strike with Blanco, and he definitely got outpointed there. Didn't seem like he was interested in taking him down at all. I don't know why. I think he really threw that fight away. If he had tried to wrestle with Blanco, I think he could have easily won that round. Seeing how well he did in the second round, but Blanco came away with the decision, and pretty disappointing third round for Ogle. I think he had been mismatched in his last two fights pretty badly. I don't think he had much business fighting Cole Miller and Oliveira, and this was a fight I think he could have easily won against a much lower ranked opponent, but just seemed to have a mental lapse there in that third round. Blanco moves on, and I really don't care who Blanco fights next. I'm not really interested in his fights going forward. I don't think he's going to do anything. Ogle, if he can get it together, and he still, has a huge skill deficiency in his striking, and obviously his ground game could get a lot better. He's still young, I think. He's only 25. If he can continue to improve, he's got the heart, but his skill really needs to catch up to his determination and grit factor. But was really disappointed that he lost this fight. Next up at welterweight, Peter Sabata decision to Pavel Pavlak. This fight was all Sabata. He was in control of the kickboxing, got a few takedowns throughout the fight. I thought he looked decent. I don't really know how much of a test Pavlak is, but decent win for Sabata. He was in control the whole time. And I'd like to see him fight Patrick Cote next. I think that would be a fun fight. Both guys have very similar styles, I think. Both kickboxers with some wrestling. But I don't expect Sabata to be doing much. I don't think he can move up the rankings much. But he looked decent for his first fight back in the UFC in a while. And Pavlak, I don't think anything of him after this fight. Moving on, Yuri Alcantara knocked out Von Lee in the first round. Really impressive performance by Alcantara. Von Lee came out aggressive, and Alcantara just countered him and put him down. I think it was the first punch he threw, but Alcantara showed he's a real dangerous striker, and starting to really run over these guys that are ranked below him. I think he's a top contender at bantamweight. Really impressive stuff. He's had a few performances like this where he's just come out in that first round and ran over the guy. Did the same thing to Iliardi Santos. He's really strong. He did the same thing to Pedro Nobre also, and he should have won that fight. That was overturned to a no contest, but Alcantara's really skilled. He's had mostly wins since coming into the UFC from the WEC. A few setbacks to Uriah Faber, which is nothing to knock him for, and Hakran Diaz at featherweight got out-grappled in both of those fights by bigger, stronger wrestlers, but Alcantara, I think, is a top contender, and I'd really like to see him fight Johnny Eduardo next. Eduardo coming off that amazing upset win over Eddie Wineland. Both guys seem to be very lethal strikers. I'd love to see that fight. And I thought they might have been in the same camp, but I checked, and they're not. So I think that's definitely the matchup that needs to be made next. Would love to see that. Next up at middleweight, Magnus Edenblad submitted Krzysztof Jotko at the end of the second round, right at the last second of the round. This was a back and forth fight, and I thought Jotko looked a lot better here than he did in his fight with Bruno Santos. He was able to get some takedowns of his own, spent some time in top control, and he definitely had the striking advantage in this fight. Was a lot more aggressive and coming forward more than Siedenblad, but Siedenblad just seemed to be the stronger guy, was able to push a higher pace, I think, in the clinch with his wrestling, and got that guillotine choke right at the end of the second round after taking Jotko down, cinched that up, and nice win for him. That's his second submission win. His last win coming over Jared Hammond. His only loss in the UFC has been to Francis Carmont, which was his first fight in the UFC. But I think he can be a solid mid-level guy. I don't know really how far he can go, but nice win for him here. And Jotko, I think he can also do well fighting the mid-level guys. He didn't look bad here at all. I think maybe Siedenblad could fight Sean Strickland next, who picked up a win here. Maybe not the most logical matchup, but I wouldn't mind seeing that. But nice one for Siedenblad. Next up, the last fight on the on the preliminary card, Nick Hein decision, Drew Dober. Nick Hein, I'm fairly intrigued with his skill set and his physique. He's a fire plug, super ripped, really bulky. I think he might it might do him some good to consider a drop to featherweight. He just seems really bulky, carrying around a lot of muscle for lightweight. But he looked pretty good in this fight. His judo skills were on full display. He was able to get a couple judo throw takedowns, and his striking, while not technical, he was very aggressive, and he was able to throw that left hand over and over again throughout the fight. His cardio didn't seem not bad, but could use some improvement, I think. I think that mostly comes from his physique. It seemed to tire as the fight went on. Drew Dober, he was able to get a few takedowns of his own, I think, in the fight, and spent some time in top position. And he was coming forward more on the feet, but Nick Hein was doing a good job countering with that haymaker of a left hand he kept throwing. Opened up a cut on Dober early, and Dober seemed to have the better cardio at the end, but didn't really matter. Hein was, Dober couldn't do anything to stop Hein from throwing that sledgehammer over and over again. So decent win for Hein. Dober, I thought, looked better here than in his loss against Sean Spencer in his last fight, which was at welterweight. But I don't expect much from Dober. I'm not sure that he really belongs in the UFC, even at the lowest level. Decent performance by Nick Hein, especially for a newcomer. I'm kind of intrigued by his skill set, like I said, being a judoka, and I'll be paying attention for his next fight. Maybe a fight with Ramsey Nijum would be good. Nijum, I think, would have a big experience advantage in that fight, but I'm not sure who he should fight next. But maybe Nijum. But nice performance by Nick Hein, a guy to keep an eye on. That I don't have real high hopes for him, but I think he has the potential to do well. And moving on to the main card. At featherweight, Nicholas Backstrom upsetting Tom Ninamaki, submitting him with the bulldog choke at the end of the first round. I loved his performance here. Ninamaki, I thought he was going to out-grapple Backstrom. I didn't know anything about Backstrom coming into this fight, and Ninamaki, I only saw his last fight against Hani Yahya, where I was really impressed with his grappling, able to dominate Yahya on the mat. But Backstrom, super tall, lanky guy at featherweight. Ninamaki took him down early. Backstrom was able to get up and then landed a big knee right on the chin of Ninamaki. He didn't even have the clinch or anything. It wasn't a flying knee, just through the knee. Hurt Ninamaki and was able to wrap up that bulldog choke, which is usually a pretty, what am I trying to say, a high-risk move. But he was able to remain really technical with it, rolled with Ninamaki, kept it sunk in, and was able to get the tap out. Great performance by Backstrom. Loved his emotion after the fight, and I'm real excited to see what he can do going forward. That's a huge win in my eyes over Ninamaki. Again, Ninamaki, I thought, looked great against Yahya. I thought that performance said a lot, but Backstrom was great here, and shout out to my buddy here on YouTube. I believe his username is Folk Gemenskap. Sorry if I said that wrong, but he told me before this fight to pay attention to Backstrom, that he thought he had a good chance of beating Ninamaki, and he was right. Great win for Backstrom, especially considering the difference in experience here. Backstrom, I believe, he only had 7 fights before this, 8 fights. and Ninamaki. Ninamaki having 27 fights before this, huge experience difference there, and also the age. Ninamaki is 31, Backstrom's 24, I believe. He's got a lot of time to work and grow. I think he's going to be great. I love that performance. And I'd like to see him get right in there, not with the top guys at featherweight, but I think that win over Ninamaki was big. I'd like to see him mix it up with a guy like Dennis Seaver, maybe Nick Lentz, but I thought that was a big win. Loved it, and I think he'll do well in the UFC. Next up at middleweight, Sean Strickland decision, Luke Big Slow Barnett. I thought this was a beautiful performance by Strickland. Definitely not an exciting fight. A lot of fans probably didn't like this fight, but I thought it was a really masterful technical performance by Strickland. He was able to out-jab a guy who was a lot taller than him. Barnett seemed to have a good jab. He was pumping it out there early in the first round, but he never landed it. He kept on catching air, and Strickland was able to get out of the way, evade Barnett's jab, and sneak in his own jab here and there throughout the fight, and really out-jabbed Barnett in this fight. He got a takedown at the end of the first round. I thought he won that round easy. The second round I thought was close. Barnett was able to corner him more, back him up against the fence, and throw that overhand right, which he caught Strickland with several times. But Strickland did very well to get away, get off the fence. And then that third round, I thought it was more, I gave it to Strickland. I thought it was more of him out jabbing Barnett, and coming off of that really strong performance over Bubba McDaniel, which was mostly he won that with his grappling and his grappling and submission game. But here, showed very good defensive movement on the feet, and was able to stick his own jab in there against a much taller guy. I thought it was really impressive, and surprised that Barnett couldn't do more to hurt this guy in the feet. I was pretty high on Barnett, like everyone else was. I thought his wins over Andrew Craig and his last fight over Mats Nilsson, those performances I thought were really good, and he was able to use his striking in both those fights to put the guys out. I thought it was really surprising that he got the head kick knockout in his last fight over Mats Nilsson, or he was able to knock him down with the head kick, and he didn't seem to throw it in this fight at all. Pretty surprising. But again, I was really impressed that Strickland was able to get the win here, especially on the feet. Barnett, I think at the beginning of the third round, he was talking to Dana through the cage and saying Strickland wasn't fighting; he was just running away. I think that's just ridiculous. Barnett was just frustrated, I think, and couldn't accept that a shorter guy like Strickland was out jabbing him. But again, really good, real impressive performance for Strickland in my eyes. And like I said already, I think a fight with Siedenblad would be pretty good. Maybe there's some other guys would be a better test for him. Not, I don't know, but Luke Barnett, maybe a fight with Brad Tavares, just coming off of a loss. Another tough veteran like that, I think that would be a good matchup for him, or a good next fight. But moving on, co-main event, CB, the Doberman Dalloway decision, Francis Limitless Carmont. Carmont was able to land some good body kicks in the beginning, but then Dalloway was able to get that, land that hook, put Carmont down, and Carmont recovered, but Dalloway landed some good elbows as Carmont latched onto a single to get back to his feet. And then second and third round was Dalloway just landing the takedown and able to control Carmont on the mat. Not the most exciting fight, but really important win for Dalloway, and I think his development has just been really great. I think he's come a long way, from the guy who got dropped several times by Mayhem Miller, the guy who got TKO'd by Jared Hammond and knocked out by Munoz. I think his striking has just come a long way. I think we really saw that in the Tim Boetsch fight where he got robbed, and really good knockout win over Ferreira. And here I think he mixed his striking pretty well with his wrestling. I did want to see him work for the finish more, but good win over a fringe top 10 guy like Carmont. And I think he was actually ranked in the top 10, but that's a really good win for Dalloway. I think he's going to continue to improve. I think he's putting it all together now better than he ever has, and he definitely, I don't think, should get a top middleweight guy right away, but maybe a guy closer to the lower end of the top 10 like Costas Philippou. I think that would be a fine matchup. A guy like that, maybe Yoel Romero, but good win here for Dalloway. And Carmont, 2 losses in a row now to Dalloway and Souza. His best win was over Costas Philippou, which was pretty much a lay and pray fest. In hindsight, I think we could say Carmont may have been a bit overrated and definitely had a couple of decisions there against Lawler and Larkin, which I definitely thought he shouldn't have won, but he did. But the guy's still talented, talented kickboxer and really big guy. I think he'll be able to continue to impose his wrestling on other guys like he did against Philippou, on guys who aren't great wrestlers, but I think some of the hype has definitely gone away for Carmont after this fight. And the main event, Munoz submitting Munoz in the first round. I thought I got this fight wrong completely. I thought Munoz was going to be able to get him down. It looked like it was going to go that way early on. Munoz was able to lift him up, but Munoz was able to land on top when Munoz did take him down. And Mousasi's takedown defense looked great. He showed a great sprawl. He had that crazy kind of hunched over stance. He was able to stalk Munoz. He bullied him in the clinch at one point, was landing some good shots to the body. He just looked great here. Munoz really had nothing for Munoz. That final finishing sequence, Munoz tried to take down Mousasi, and again, Mousasi was able to, reverse the takedown. He was able to land and mount and sink in that rear naked choke. I think Mousasi just looked fantastic here. His striking, his takedown defense, being able to land on top when Munoz tried to take him down. Not a technique you see too often, but he looked fantastic. And Munoz, I think that's the end of him. I think he should retire. He says he wants to continue fighting. I really don't see the point. 2 really devastating losses in a row against Machida and Mousasi. And he's been pretty inactive the last couple of years. After that Weidman loss, took a year off, and then won over Tim Boetsch, and then had his losses against Machida and now Mousasi. The guy's pretty old, 36. I think he definitely showed that in this fight. I don't think he could compete with any of the other top guys, and I think he should just retire. But what a great performance by Munoz. Really exciting contender now. I wasn't sure if he was a contender after his loss to Machida, which is nothing to hang his head about. But the fight over Latifi, light heavyweight, I didn't really get the feeling he was looking to finish and impress. But this fight, completely different story. And should he win another fight over a top contender, he's right there. He's right there. I think he could fight for the belt after one more win, and I think he'd be a really interesting test for Weidman or whoever else is the champion. I'd like to see him fight Rockhold next. I think that would be a really fun matchup. Two Strikeforce guys, two guys coming off of great wins. But really, he could fight any of those top guys, Jacare, Kennedy, even anyone. It really doesn't matter. But he looked great, and I think he's going to do great going forward, and should be in that title hunt soon if he can get one more big win. But really impressed with his performance here. So that's my recap for UFC Fight Night 41, Munoz versus Munoz. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. I appreciate it. Please like the video, comment, subscribe. Check out my recap for the Ultimate Fighter Brazil 3 finale. And also check out my picks for UFC Fight Night 42, Henderson versus Hobby Love. Thanks a lot, guys. Take care. I'll see you next time. Bye.